Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Gunn Show. I'm so excited to be here with you today. If you're watching on YouTube or the MTDCNC website, you already see my two guests today. However, if you're on Spotify, Apple, or Google, I'm not going to announce a guest yet, and you just have to be excited here in a few minutes as we're only just listening from those sites. If you're joining us for the first time, let me just say thank you. Thank you for joining us, and I know this is going to be an excellent show all the way from beginning to end. I have two of my best friends and superheroes on the podcast today. But if you've joined us through, say, I don't know, like a Google search, or you're just scrolling through Spotify or YouTube, you're like, the Gunn Show. That must be about weapons or muscles. I'm going to go check that out. I apologize. It is not. It is nothing that I have, actually. I don't have muscles and I don't have guns. Some of the folks on my podcast today might, but I don't. I don't. It's just a play on my name. Two N's, Tony Gunn, very Scottish and Norwegian. If you want to look up the background, I actually found Clan Gunn Castle over in Scotland. It is awesome and destroyed. But anyway, that's neither here nor there for today. If you're joining us again on the Gunn Show, thank you again for joining us. We hope that we are bringing value to your time. Time is the one thing we never get back. And if you've been gracious enough to share it with us, we truly hope that you're being educated, entertained, and enjoying your 30 minutes to an hour with us on every episode. And we have to thank our sponsors. Without the sponsors, we would not be here today. We would not continue to grow and be the most popular podcast in manufacturing, in all of manufacturing. So thank you for being here, and thank you to the sponsors. Let's run through those as quickly as we can. Revolution Machinery, thank you for doing what you do, making sure that the sales of used machines and the buyer of used machines, everyone wins. EBITDA Growth Systems, thank you for promising you will double anyone's profitability within 3 years. Incredible. I love joining you all over the world and working on that shop rescue project with you. AMT, IMTS team, brothers and sisters, you are amazing. Thank you for doing what you do. Tecma down in Mexico, nearshoring and reshoring is so important as we move into 2025 and beyond. COVID kicked our butt and showed us why we need to bring as much back as we can. So Tecma family down in Mexico, I will see you in June. We have a lot to work on. NTMA, we appreciate you as well, being a part of your Engage events and taking care of so many people that want to be a part of your association. We thank you also. Shop Floor Coffee, thank you for giving back to those who drink coffee in the manufacturing world. You give back to manufacturing, and thanks for giving those coffee beans to us too. If you're out there and you're buying coffee right now and it's one of those generic multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar brands out there, look at Shop Floor Coffee. They actually give back a percentage of the proceeds to all of manufacturing. And then the American Precision Museum, I got a little shaper over here that they've gifted me. If you have not been up to Vermont to see the original Silicon Valley of American precision, I highly recommend you head up there. And if you can't make it there, I highly recommend you head over to the MTDCNC YouTube page, where we have an hour and a half walkthrough of the entire thing, and it is mind-blowing the amount of precision that was created in the 16, 17, 1800s. The only difference really that I noticed between now and then is time. They did it. It just took weeks, and now it takes minutes. That's kind of the difference, but the precision in a micron form was there. All right, I am done rambling. They have these two handsome brothers with me today. I know that, Eric, you might be a little older than Steve, but of the two brothers, obviously I'm making a few jokes here. Steve, you have been running Paramount for a while. You are the father of this excellent young man, Eric, who I got to meet firsthand not too long ago. Thank you both for being on the show. I truly appreciate you taking your time.
Well, I appreciate that. We're glad to be here.
So you like the brother introduction, right? I saw Eric smiling about it. Eric's like, I don't look that old. Stop doing that, Tony. But
more hair.
Hey, look at that. Hey, bald is the new sexy. I got buddies out there that are shaving their head and they got hair. They're like, I'm sexy and I know it. They're LMFAOing right there. They're getting sexy, you know? Plus you got that epic beard, Eric. It's there.
I can't grow it on top, so it comes down.
Well, just for fun, has nothing to do with this podcast whatsoever. When did you realize you were going to start shaving your head? How old were you?
24.
Yeah.
I said by 24, I was still holding on to it, but it wasn't working. So I just went for the Bic, and it's where it goes now.
Hey, you look good, buddy, and that's what the hats are for too. If you don't like, I like it, but if you don't like it, that's what hats are for. I got a buddy; he's been shaving his head since 20. As soon as he graduated high school, he's like, "I'm tired," and he had hair. He's just like, "I'm tired of working with it."
Yeah, sometimes I think about missing it, but then I gotta be like you and wake up in the morning and add 20, 30 minutes to my hair routine.
I do not spend 20. I can tell you right now, this is day 3 of doing nothing. For anyone watching right now on YouTube, this is day 3 of me working from the house. I leave for India in just a little bit, but day 3 from my house, and this is just how my hair wakes up.
Oh, they're perfect.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine spending 20. Maybe when I was like 14 and I really was looking in the mirror, just I didn't know who I was or what I wanted to be, and my hair had to be perfect. I had a bowl cut and like a flop, and it was so adorable. Yeah, this is not what the show's about. How did we get here? All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move into Steve's world, like Bobby's world. Anybody see that cartoon? Okay, I'm gonna get on rambling again. Let's not talk about that. Steve's world. Steve's world. Okay, that's Wayne's world.
Yeah.
Steve, you are an idol of mine. I got to be honest. When I first met you, I had heard rumors about the type of person you were, and then when I walked around the shop, the first person I was filming with was Eric when I was there, and I got to meet some of your colleagues. And when I walk around the shop, I always ask questions just out of curiosity. Not that I'm ever going to put on camera or anything like that, but I'm always just curious. And everybody just admires you at Paramount. I mean, really admires you for so many different reasons, whether it's giving back during times of COVID or the vehicle that you choose to drive instead of that Maserati that some people might invest in based on a successful machine shop like yours. You're humble, you're kind, you're authentic. And I want to know more about what you would call your boring journey, but I don't think it's boring at all. I want to know more about your journey of how you got into manufacturing and where you are today. And then, Eric, we'll go into your story as well. But with the same last name, I got some ideas of how your story might go.
Maybe.
Okay. So my start into machining was I proposed to my wife and I needed a better job than a pizza cook. So I started to burn in a shop and worked my way up the ladder.
I mean, you're telling me the story, but there's so much more. I think, you know what I think? I think I'm gonna have to tell your story for you because it's such an incredible story, but you're so humble that you own an amazing place called Paramount, and you're like, well, I needed a better job because I was doing pizza. We have that in common, by the way. When I was in college, I was a line cook at Pizza Hut, so I also needed a better job. And then you're like, and then I worked my way up. What, you worked your way up to owning your own company? Is that how that went?
Well, yeah, I spent the first 16 years working for somebody and I had ideas and things I wanted to do. It was a really great place to learn. There's 7 of us that same age range that have shops. So that tells you we are all learning and helping each other. And but started the shop in 95 in the garage behind the house. And worked at my day job, worked nights, and that lasted about a year. And I finally took the plunge.
Was that scary?
Yeah. Story I tell is I quit my job and then went and looked into phone book how many machine shops there really was, and I panicked. So
what did you find?
there was way more than I had any clue. I should have done that before I quit my job.
That's both positive and negative, in my opinion, because I would have thought you wouldn't have seen very many because we're always talking about not having enough manufacturing people out there. But the fact that you opened it up, you're like, uh-oh, did I jump into something that's already, there's enough of us out there, right?
Yeah. So worked really hard along the way, but had lots of help and lucky things happen. Great customers, and then co-workers I worked with wanted to come work with me, and that they helped grow what we are
today. And what are you today?
70 people, 35 CNCs. Yeah, a great. We have 5-axis. We have multi-turns. We have Swiss screws, EDMs. It's a great thing to be part of.
Yeah, when I was walking around there, I was admiring all of that as well. Let's bring Eric into this a little bit. Eric, diapers, right? Just running around in diapers in a machine shop. I'm going to assume from pizza to manufacturing, your mom stuck around, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she did.
That's good news.
She's still there, and she likes it. It works really good for both my parents because they like to work a lot, and so it helps out that he has a lot of stuff to do here, and she's very dedicated in her job, and taking conference calls all over the world, 2, 3 in the morning, staying up till midnight if she needs to. It'll be very interesting. There's a lot of people that say that they've worked hard and are approaching retirement age and should find a hobby, but the hobby for both of them is working. So maybe we got to give them a little less flack, but
you like having them around. I'm sure you like having them around, right?
Yeah, definitely I do. There's you don't see it every day. He'll speaking of my mom, she'll go home and, hey Eric, how was or she'll ask my dad, how was Eric today? I don't know. I think I saw him a couple of times, but we didn't really talk. We were both working.
Well, probably on machines back to back. You just didn't. You're just so focused on the job, right? Programming, getting workout, and we didn't even talk today.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Eric, I want you to share a little bit of your journey as well, because we got to hear Steve's, and you're welcome to throw some of Steve's journey in there with you, because you might have a different perspective about it. Growing from a family owned and operated business, and your father being exactly who he is, and knowing firsthand from my side the expansion, growth, and success you guys have done. And you and I have talked about this off camera, so I'm happy to have you here as well. Let's talk about your journey growing up in a machine shop, your immense desire from the age of 2 to want to be a machinist and be a part of this family business, right? Hey there, manufacturers. Need to sell your surplus CNC machinery? Whether it's vertical machining centers, CNC lathes, or machines from top brands like Yazda, Matsur, or Watchon, let me introduce you to Revelation Machinery. If you've never worked with a used machinery dealer before, here's what you're missing. Selling equipment on your own can mean long waits, low offers, and lots of time chasing leads. Revelation Machinery changes the game, bringing nationwide exposure to your machines. Their team is located across the USA, so wherever you are, you've got a local expert on your side. Revelation doesn't just list your equipment, they use targeted marketing methods to get your machines in front of serious buyers. Revelation Machinery is committed to fair pricing, full transparency, and taking care of the details. From paperwork to logistics and even rigging if you need it, they're there every step of the way, so you're not juggling any part of the process alone. Ready to let a trusted partner handle the heavy lifting? Head to revelationmachinery.com/The Gunn Show to see how easy it is to turn that surplus machinery into cash with Revelation Machinery.
Eventually, there was.
See, I know the real story, which is why I set you up that way.
I remember being young in the shop in the backyard. There were days that I wanted to go out there, but I wasn't allowed. Sorry, it's not that I wasn't allowed, but I just don't remember always going out there. But I always remember wanting to go out there, and going out there when I did, it was fun. I remember a 6-inch round piece of plastic that was probably 6 feet tall. It was standing end to end, and I was 9 years old, and I started rocking it back and forth, not understanding momentum, and thought, oh, it's plastic. And I went to grab it as it dropped and smashed my hand between that plastic rod and the concrete floor. And some people have heard my stories too of my dad gets phone calls from my teachers in high school that Eric skipped school today. And he's like, yeah, I know, he was at the shop, because I would skip school to go hang out at the shop. Um, Growing up, him and other people that worked for the shop, they would help me make things like stupid trinkets out of the scrap bin, cut something on the bandsaw and find a bolt, screw it together. Maybe the same stuff that my kids, younger generation, are doing with 3D printers, of just not really have anything but the ability to do something. So I always liked being around, but I didn't think that it was where I wanted to be at the time, and was going to try and do some business administration stuff. And then life happens, and I decided I am not happy doing this. And if I go run a machine and work hard and make a decent living, I think I can live with that. So that
So
was
far,
my
so
turn.
good. Yeah.
So far, so good. I think there may have been like, maybe when I'm 45, 50, I'll come work at the shop and try and help run the business side. But now I want to help run the shop side.
Yeah. And are you going to retire, or do you see yourself in 50 years from now still in the shop, just hanging out, enjoying your day, letting your kids do the work that you're doing now, and just smiling about it, never retiring like this gentleman beside you?
Um, I can't say that thought's not romantic, but I
You and
also
I have different
understand.
definitions of romance.
Well, this is like Shakespearean, but not
Okay.
like weird stuff. Yeah, I think it would be great. I have two sons, and right now they want to be YouTubers and play, do video game stuff. And I'm not sure that they want to be in manufacturing, but in 50 years, hopefully I'm still alive. I'll be 85.
You
But
will be. You're going to live forever.
um I would like to be able to help continue this and have it be an option. And I came to my dad. I don't know if he's sitting behind me, so
I love how that camera angle works. Which
I
is
don't
why you
know.
keep muting yourself when he's talking so we don't have an echo.
I did figure that out, that it might work that way. Um I think that my dad thought it would be great if I came to work with him. He probably thought it'd be terrible too. And we'll both tell you there are terrible days and there are great days. Terrible days are less than they were at the beginning. And sure, he probably always thought it'd be great, but he wanted to make sure that I knew that I could do whatever I wanted to do, and there was no pressure. So kind of feel the same way. I would love to have my boys come and work here and pass it on. And I tell both of them that they're smarter than me and they could do anything. So even if they think I'm great at this, and they could be 10 times better. And so, yes, I would like it to be around, but we all have to find our own paths. But, and maybe where I'm getting to on this is that he made sure there was an opportunity, and being around to make sure there's that opportunity. Yes, I would like to do that.
Awesome. I love, and we'll take that snippet out and make sure that your kids see that part, that they're smarter than you. They're going to use that against you for a long, long time. Steve, we're going to move over to you in just a second, but I want to tell a quick story. And what I want to ask you about is what Eric was just discussing about good days and bad days, and your perspective on that also. But Eric, I want to share a story with you because you mentioned you were skipping school and going to the shop. And I think you would have been a good influence on me, my friend, because I was skipping school and going to the river. All I was doing was a whole lot of nothing. I decided that school was too boring. I had enough of it. I was done with it. And my buddies and I would hop in the car and just go to the river. There was a beautiful rope swing, and we'd swim in the James River in Richmond, Virginia every single day. And then I failed all my classes. So I think a machine shop would have been you'd have been a good influence on me.
I can't say that I came to the shop every time I skipped, but there were like the couple times I did get called on it. It was fortunate that it worked out that way. And
fair enough.
And expectations, and the expectation was what are your grades, and if they're not passable, then you're going to get in trouble for not going to school. If you're passing your classes, then
That
there's
was the
worse
rule.
things that you could be
Okay.
doing.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. All right, Steve. Eric has shared what I think to be interesting or fascinating because he's right, and it's an authentic viewpoint to say that not all days are good and some days are better than others. When Eric was first coming in, Steve, was it, from your perspective, was every day something that you were excited about because you saw the next generation coming in and embracing the company, or were some days for you as frustrating as it was maybe for him, and you're just like, get out of my building, I'll wait for the grandchildren to get here? What was that dynamic like from the beginning until now?
So I never lost perspective that I love Eric, and I'm glad he's my boy, and I'm glad of that. But yes, some days was all we could take of each other. There's days that we stood in the middle of the shop and scared everybody and yelled it, screamed at our top of our lungs at each other, and so there were hard days like that. But I learned a lot from that. I feel like he learned a lot. We hit some really great points. Some of the great things that are happening at the shop is because we had those conflicts and worked it out and found the right spot in life of how to run the shop and what to do.
Well, Steve, you don't have to answer this next question if you don't want to, but do you have in your memory a story that you could share of one of the more difficult times where you just wanted to throw a brick at Eric and say, "Get out of my shop"? Is there one you want to share, or you don't want to share that kind of story?
Uh, I don't really have. I don't have I have to think about it. I hadn't prepared for that. I don't have one right now, so no.
All
I'll
right.
think about that, and if it comes up, I'll jump on that. So
I'm just gonna pretend it's because they didn't exist or they're not that memorable,
no,
and
they were there. I promise you. So.
and I'll ask Eric in a minute because I know he's chomping at the bit to share a story. But on the flip side of that, do you have any memories of a very successful day that Eric had where you're like, okay, he's really coming along now. I see great progress, or a project that he might have taken over where you're like, damn, I'm proud of this kid today. That kind of are there any of those kind of stories on the flip side where you really saw a change or a growth or an evolution in what was happening?
Um, yeah, early days was he decided he had a motorcycle, and he decided he's going to build a chopper.
Awesome.
So he worked with that in the shop, and there was a few of the guys in the shop that had built choppers before, and they were helping him along the way. And then they kind of got tired of the kid bugging him, so he kind of got left alone with that, and he had to figure a lot of those things out all by himself. And when he got it done and it actually ran, what he learned from that was not as much about building a chopper, but he learned how to learn. How to stop and figure something out, and how to look through and outside the box, and how do I make this work? And that was significant and huge in my mind of his progression in manufacturing.
Yeah,
Um,
incredible. I agree.
there, I have to, every day, I am amazed at Eric, his grasp of machining and manufacturing. Yeah, he did come out the shop a little bit when he was a kid. He may not remember as much as I remember, and he had other interests in the shop, but apparently he learned something there because he can take apart and understand uh, exactly how we should do it and what we should do. Yesterday we had a job that was either an EDM or a mill, and Eric's mostly the screw machine guy, and he's helping deciding how to build that part, and he can see and pulling all the people and pieces together to do that, and he has a real grasp about how to put things together without overcomplicating.
We need people like that in our lives for sure. And I've seen Eric. He's almost like a kid in a candy store or running into Toys R Us when a Swiss machine arrives. And I know you guys just got a new Hanwha as well. And Eric, I'm going to ask you about that in a minute because I've seen more posting from you on social media in the last week than I have in the last 3 years. So that's exciting. And we'll get back to your YouTuber kids, and maybe you can ask them for advice on posting as well. But I saw you clicking and unclicking that mute button when we were talking about some of those bad days. Do you have any memories where you and your dad just went at it?
Um, there's a couple, and you can laugh about it now.
Well, he's
And
sitting right behind you, remember? He could slap you with a newspaper or something. So
um, they're they're true stories. They're one day we're yelling and screaming this way across the shop and cursing at each other. And I think what scared everyone is that once we went from the office here to the EDM room here, I finally turned around and finger pointed and yelled at him back to the office, and it got to the office and we both split ways and probably didn't talk for a couple of days. And they're true stories, but one thing too, and I think that we've both came to realize this, is that they look like arguments from the outside, but they're just really passionate conversations. Because I'm passionate about what I'm doing and I really believe in it. Otherwise I wouldn't be here with you. I wouldn't be advocating out on the shop for direction that I believe we should be going. I wouldn't be preaching about the group of people that we have. And also, we may not be 70 employees and be where we are now if he wasn't passionate about getting out of the garage. And maybe the garage would have been fine and could have been just as successful in the same measure, but there's passion there. So I don't know if they're arguments, they're just passionate conversations.
And I would agree with that 100%. The passion's what drove all that.
What does manufacturing mean to, well, everyone? It's the heartbeat of America. It's the creativity that makes all the things around us. If it's not people and if it's not air, take a look around. It's been touched by manufacturing.
The evolution of the reinvention of the American Precision Museum have preservation, education, and inspiration. And we just want to make a difference in the way manufacturing and machine tools are perceived. It's scary to think what this country would look like without manufacturing.
Yeah. And from the outside, it might seem like an argument. From the inside, you guys know what you're doing. All right, Eric, I'm going to continue now into the world of technology because your dad set you up perfectly with talking about the Swiss world. When I did a factory tour with you guys, I saw a ton of DMG Moris that have been invested in throughout the years. And there's a great milling side to what you guys do and turning side. But you really, really seem to enjoy the Swiss world. And on that side of the shop, you guys keep adding and you keep adding to that. And I believe you just got a new Hanwha to go into that. And then the first time I was introduced to Paramount as a whole, I was introduced through a machine monitoring company called Datanomix. And the story went, come prove it, pretty much. And come prove it at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, because we got something that we had before and it's just driving us crazy and we didn't want any of that. Come show us what you got. And I would say that in the Swiss world, there's a whole lot of benefits because sometimes you're going to run so many cycles and so many parts and you really want to fine tune, understand what the true depths of the machine and the life of the cutting tools and that, that coffee shop morning type of a thing where you can get the results instead of spending time arguing about what the truth is. You actually know the truth. So I'm hoping this has set you up enough to show us your excitement about Swiss manufacturing and your new machine, and then B, how machine monitoring and adapting that throughout the last couple of years has benefited the shop overall.
Yeah, so new machine, went to IMTS, went and saw Hanwha. They moved their Wisconsin facility to Chicago, so I went and saw them. And it had been a while because they have been absent at IMTS and going through some restructuring. But when I walked in and looked at the machines, it was like, wow, these are capable. And the very first one we got was a Hanwha. And I joke about this because Hanwha is I think they're the 7th largest Korean company, which you think about like Samsung, Hyundai. No one thinks about Hanwha. One of my coworkers, his countertops in his house are Hanwha countertops. They're a huge company, but they build tanks. And so I always talked about that the hand wall was built like a tank. And it's like, well, yeah, it's because they know how to build tanks. And I've crashed that machine harder than I've crashed any other machine. And it's like, well, let's reset some axes and see what's going on. And oh yeah, a couple thou offset, we're good.
Wow.
Back up and running. So first hand wall, we had almost 1.2 million parts on it. Good machine. Started chasing a little bit of gremlins, saw the new machines, how capable they were. Excited about this new one. It's a convertible machine, so chucker mode, guide bushing. I'm excited about Swiss manufacturing. I don't know if I'm a true Swiss manufacturer because I love running in guide bushing mode. You can get away with a lot of things and you can push it harder than you think you could. And you get away from having to be so precise with it. Like I did EDM work, wire EDM work, but it's like I didn't really do true EDM work. I did 2D machining, like high precision bandsaw. But the new one's awesome. It's got some cross tools on the sub side, up to 8 live tools on the sub. So that's pretty cool. We also tried out a new bar feeder. It's a Top Infinity, which I was super excited about just because of the adjustable bushings. So, but Swiss, we started with a need. I went over there, kind of took it on, became successful at it. We started growing them and we were buying a new one like every 18 months. What I love about them is just how capable they are. And it's amazing. You can go over to the mill side and someone's got 300 tools in their tool changer and show you this cool mill part. And then I can take a square part off the Swiss and say, I did this, but I only had 7 tools. And I have 2 different tap drills, or I have 2 different threaded holes. So there's 4 of my tools gone. I got 3 to do the rest. So being creative, it allows for that. And they're just really capable. Yeah.
You know, I hear you say these stories and I don't disagree with any of it. And you're right. The majority of people don't realize that Hanwha does these other things. You mentioned a countertop and a tank. So I'm going to utilize this moment to fuss a little bit at all of my Korean friends, except for 1 or 2, and be like, get your marketing better. We need to know this stuff here in the U.S. And if you are, and I've been to Simtos, by the way, which is the Korean IMTS, let's say. I've been to your booth. It's incredible in Korea. But what's happened over the years is that traditionally the Japanese have utilized quality to sell a product, and quality has worked and does work, and quality will continue to work. But the majority of the new buyers these days are going online to find their information, and they're buying from the information they know. And if these quality companies don't have videos online, they're losing sales. Okay, I'm off of my high horse now. I'm stepping off of my soapbox. But my Korean friends, give us a call. We can help you showcase your quality like Eric is bragging about right now. And I'm sure, Eric, your check is in the mail from Hanwha for all those nice compliments. Let's get into the world of machine monitoring. And I'm going to do this in a twofold way. I'm actually going to utilize you, Steve, and Eric based on age demographic, if that's okay. And the reason I describe it like that is because I would make the discussion or the argument that some of the younger shop owners out there that I've had the opportunity to spend time with or be in their shops, they would be, how do I want to describe this? They adapt some of the newer technology quicker, or they're more open-minded to listening about it based on the fact that a lot of these folks have grown up with technology in their hands at all times and realize how important this technology is, while another generation of folks have grown up in a more traditional way and feel like they can understand the majority of what they need to know about their shop through the knowledge of what they've built. And it's a very traditional thing. I find, and I would love for people to leave comments in the comment section on any platform that you're listening and watching right now, and fuss at me if I'm wrong and let me know about the mistakes I'm making in this statement. But I would make the discussion that adapting newer technologies to one generation is a little bit scarier than a generation that's grown up with these technologies. So that's my very long-winded way to offer this moment for you, Steve, to help, because you've adopted it. You were excited about Datanomix. You're excited about machine monitoring. It's been a big part of the information you've received over the last couple of years. You gave these guys a chance to prove themselves. But I would say there's a lot of folks out there that have a fear of, I don't need it, or it's not going to work, or I'm going to spend money on something that is just a waste of money, whatever it might, or I'm not going to get the information I want. Can we describe, Steve, and I'm sorry for doing it this way, I just feel like this is most beneficial for the audience listening right now, to have two different generations that can describe the same product, implementation of that product, and how they're utilizing it. So Steve, knowing that you grew up within the shop, you've built this thing, your son is now coming into it, hopefully your grandkids at one point, you are very good at being open-minded enough to listen to people and adapt technologies. That's why you've continued to be successful. When machine monitoring comes into your shop, just general machine monitoring, and you give it a chance, and then you see this Datanomix stuff come through, what is machine monitoring to you, and was it easy for you to accept in the beginning? Did you see its relevancy? Did you see its benefits?
Yeah, I see tons of benefits there. It's exactly what I try to get people to do all the time. How many parts you do in an hour, and how many did you get done today, and you know, that kind of thing. But it's really hard to get people to track and do that every hour and every minute to do that. I know there's so much benefit there, and even more than we're able to pull out of it right now based on our knowledge. My problem has always been that, look, it's not easy for me. That's not where I grew up. Exactly what you're talking about. Most things in my head are a math problem. You know, just add it together and do it, no matter what. Even personally, you know, what's the plus and what's the minus, you know, that kind of thing. But especially on the shop floor, you know. And again, go back, and it just drove me crazy to walk out and ask people. You know, I'm not even pestering them how fast they're building a part. I want to know how much they're consistent to their self. Are you doing 6 an hour? Are you doing 20 an hour? And you do that consistently. And I never could get that answer out of people. And so this has been very helpful for doing that. It took a champ. Everything you do, when we bought a horizontal, I had to have a champion for that to make that work, not like a vertical mill. It needed to work like a horizontal. And when we got the screw machines, I had to have a champion for that. And Eric's really been our champion on Datanomix. And I can tell you the shops was really wary of, what are you using this for? You're spying on me. You know, this is to get me in trouble. But we worked really hard to show them and make them understand that, look, we're just using this as a tool to evaluate, rather than me sitting in the office and guessing that things are being bad or good. We're going to really have some data. And I tried to tell them all the time, look, everybody thinks they're the hardest worker. Here's their chance to show me you're the hardest worker.
Oh, yeah.
And initially we rewarded areas and people based on, you know, we could see there was really good coming out of there, and didn't go beat up the bad that we seen. And those guys on the floor now, I think they would miss not having it. They talk about, you know what, I want to know what's going on today. I want to know how to take care of this, and am I succeeding every day?
I am here in Mexico today at Expo Santa Fe because we're going to talk TECMA. Now, TECMA is the trade show here in Mexico to attend. If you're going to attend only one show in Mexico this year, attend TECMA. And why is that? Well, we have this big conversation about nearshoring and reshoring right now, right? Well, Mexico is the backbone for the infrastructure that we might currently be lacking in the U.S. to have that support here in Mexico. Will now take place from June 18th to June 20th at Expo Santa Fe, Mexico City. If you're gonna bring your significant other, we want them to be able to go shopping, and this is a very familiar, comfortable area. You can go shopping, enjoy yourself, there's restaurants everywhere, and safety is key. Here, you have no problems. Steve, this is such a curiosity to me, and Eric, don't feel left out, but I got more questions for Steve. Don't worry, buddy. We'll get to you in just a minute. Steve, this is such a curiosity for me because you said something out loud that most of us, I believe, think about regularly. And it's, I wanted the information, but like how I get that information, and I don't understand the technology that helps me get there. So you were walking out on the floor, and myself as well, because my machine shop days came before this burst of AI and machine monitoring. So I also, very much like you, walk out to the machine floor. What are you making? How many have you made? How long is it taking you? What's my tool life for this job? And if I switch materials, what's my tool life going to be? There's so much that we want to know, right? I mean, we want to know this information. And I think about it and go, how much would it cost if I hired someone to drag this information out of these people and out of these machines, and that was their full-time job? How much would I have to pay someone versus how much am I getting from this machine monitoring at the cost that that's giving me, right?
Absolutely. You nail on the head right there with that one. Plus, if somebody's doing that all the time, people are feeling like they are big brothers watching them and doing it.
Then they're really being watched, right?
Yeah, this is working in the background, and it's unbiased. You know, it isn't because you're Joe's friend. You know, so you're getting a little bit more leeway with what's going on. This is really unbiased, and yeah, when you present it the way you just did, it's way cheaper than having people doing that, and way less invasive in your shop.
Yeah, and probably I would make the discussion that the AI is far smarter than me too, so you're getting more information than the questions that I would ask about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I agree. 100%. Amen.
Yeah, giving me thoughts that I hadn't thought about before. So I'm going to describe this a little bit further. And Eric, we're going to slide over to you next, but I want to describe this a little bit further. Steve, you did an amazing job of describing your perspective, and it's one that I think resonates and ripples throughout all industries about just how fast technology is evolving and how difficult it is to keep up with, especially in a generation that wasn't born with it. My generation, a Gen Xer, we developed all of it, but we weren't born with it either. So we struggle with some of the new stuff. I mean, I make this joke regularly, but I had a pager and my grandparents had a rotary phone, and we moved into a quarter and pay phones and call and collect and saying, hey, it's Tony, give me a call, pick me up, you know, that kind of thing, real quick, so they wouldn't have to accept the collect call. And then we saw the evolution of the BlackBerry and the flip phones, and I need to hit a number 4 times to get the letter I want for a text message. It took me 3 hours instead of, you know, what we have today. I remember the first iPhone and standing in line for it, and how we were mind blown because we had our DVDs, our CDs. We just got iPods. We thought, damn, I get 40 songs on my iPod instead of 12 on my CD. We thought we were really getting it. And they were like, wait, we're going to combine a computer and a camera and an iPod and all of these things? That's impossible. That's not even, nobody's going to want, how's that going to work? But then there's a generation that I believe Eric's a little younger than me, a generation that grew up with most of this, and they can adapt easier. And I love that you said, I don't actually know how all of it works, but I want the information, and how important it is to accept that being the truth, and then bringing people in to surround us that can work with this. And I think that's what Eric has done with the adaptability. So Eric, you are obviously this champion, as your dad says, for machine monitoring. You had tried some previous ones and you landed on Datanomix. You've been using that one for a while. Let's talk about, just from your perspective, machine monitoring and why Datanomix and what it's brought to Paramount.
We do a lot of repeat work, and we always had project managers coming out and saying, hey, 3 times ago we built this and we were $20 apart. And then 2 times ago we built it and it was $10. And then last time it was $50. So what is it? And I have to think 6, 7, 8 months back of what happened 3 times ago, 2 times ago, last time. I don't know.
So it's not just my memory that's shot. We're in the same
No.
world here. I wouldn't be able to remember that either.
So the way that machine monitoring and how I see it is that we have these repeat parts with Datanomix and the profile it builds. I can go to that and say, look, we've been capable of being able to build them at 16 minutes. Our target should really be 18 minutes. Typically, we're at 18 and a half. And I can go back to the project manager and say 18.5, put it at that. Now there's a scoreboard up top. And if I'm not meeting that 18.5, I know that. So it creates awareness. Maybe the guy that built it at $50 a part just wasn't aware that every time he went to go get a cup of coffee, he didn't start his machine for 2 hours.
That's a long cup of coffee.
There's hyperboles and exaggerations, but it makes the point, right? It's just about self-awareness. And there's a competitive nature in machine shop. I think a little bit of competition can be good. We have access, everyone has access to Datanomix, and there'll be opportunities on different machine centers, and they'll look up the part number and say, oh, well, they did it in 10 minutes, but I'm going to do it in 8. And so it drives that. And customers, they care about quality, they care about on-time delivery, and they care about price. And it's probably in that order, but the only one we ever hear about is price. So that's the biggest thing that we're getting hammered on, because on time and quality are expected. But price is subjective. So the machine monitoring makes it easier to be able to rule out that subjectivity and get it down to an actual number where it's repeatable and it's reliable.
Do you find
if you can create the process to make it predictable and reliable, then you can start creating processes to prevent the unpredictability or the unreliability.
That's very valid point, and my mind is always full of chaos. So it's you've excited it, so we're already in trouble. Do you find, and I love what you said just then. Okay, I have 2 questions for you. Sorry, I'm going to do this to you. You mentioned,
you're the host. You can do whatever you want.
That's kind of true, but I don't want to be a bad host. You mentioned quality, you mentioned lead time, you mentioned price. We all have seen that circular thing that you can't have all 3, pick 2, right? But I think we live in a world now where we have to give all 3. I think most of the world is offering all 3, and if they're taking one out, oftentimes we do exaggerate price for quality, but the lead time still, needs to be good, right? We did ship everything overseas, so we could get cheaper prices. And we were okay with lesser quality on some of the products. But I love how you describe that, and actually in that order, because I would believe that the majority of the countries, and certainly in this country, all 3 are demanded these days. Now, the conversation about what is my cost going to be can sometimes be a fuss or nerve-wracking or stressful or whatever. Or sometimes we just don't care, and we're like, there's the number that we worked our butts off. This is what you're getting, right? Do you find that through software like Datanomix, that the conversations of price become easier or more transparent because you have all the details of what you can show them and say, look, I know it was this 6 months ago. Our material costs went up, or I know this was 6 months ago and our material costs went down, or the amount of time we invest. Does it make the conversation easier, or is it equally as difficult regardless?
I've gotten feedback from project managers that it makes it easier.
Yeah.
They have data that they can actually take, there's reports they can print out and they can show that, hey, this is where we're at. Yeah. And you talk about material price. Like, how do you know material price went up?
Is this a joke?
No. How do you know that material price went up?
I would know based on my purchase order of what my purchase order for my material was.
How do you know that it costs you more on your machine to make?
I would imagine my machine would cost similar. It's just the material cost that went up, right? Or the tooling cost.
You would think that, but it's because you're not monitoring it. If you monitor it, you can see that last time it was here, this time it was here, now it's flat. So we know where we're at. But if you're not monitoring that, it was very easy for you to tell me how much material cost. It's what the purchase order was.
Right. That's my guess.
As smart as you are.
Oh gosh, don't say that. Don't spread that rumor. Yeah, don't spread that rumor.
Okay, but everyone can understand this. If you're not tracking it, how do you know? We can go out on baseball field and all crush home runs, and you can hit RBIs, and then at the end it'll be like, well, who won? well, it must have been Eric because he hit, remember all those home runs and Tony only hit RBIs? Okay, well, since we weren't keeping score, we didn't realize I scored 4 home runs and you hit in 10 RBIs. So you won. It's about keeping score. How do you know who's winning and who's losing if you're not keeping score?
Dude,
We keep score on tooling. We keep score on raw materials. We keep score on outside processing, but we don't keep score on machine time. And yes, there's ERP systems and MRP systems, but those are subject to human error. Joe doesn't want to get in trouble because he's not, well, no, Joe's the friend Steve was talking about. So let's say Randy isn't Joe's friend. And so he lies to the ERP system, and then the ERP system spits out a number. How do we know that's true?
good grief.
That's what Steve said. It's not biased. It just says what it's doing. Reads ones and zeros.
I love that baseball analogy. And in my head, I'm going, that's where our batting average comes from. One guy hit 4 home runs out of 20 at bats. The other guy got on base 15 times and never hit a home run, but the batting average is way better. You know, like that's a fantastic analogy, Eric. Fantastic analogy. All right. Believe it or not, we're almost out of time. We've been talking for about an hour. I don't even know, but I love you guys. You're incredible. I appreciate your time. I'm going to leave you each. It doesn't have to be long, or you can just say no thank you if you don't want to, Steve, as I know you have so much fun on podcasts and not nervous at all. But I just want to give you each a minute to 3 minutes of kind of a closing message. It can be about your company. It can be about anything. It could be about yourself. It could be about manufacturing. Just anything you like to close this podcast out with, something that the audience might like to hear, something memorable. Or you can just say, no, thank you. Just close it out, Tony. I'm done with this show.
Okay, I'm going to start. I want to talk about how important manufacturing is for our country. The whole middle class thing, the whole creating jobs, the whole building parts. It's amazing. You get somebody that we hired a new gal in the last few months that had never been near manufacturing. She worked in hotels and restaurants, and she got in here and worked a couple of weeks, and she's so wound up about manufacturing. Building parts is the coolest thing in the world for her.
When do I get to come back out to Utah and film with her? I already want to do that. I'm sorry for interrupting your 3 minutes of glory time, but I apologize. I wanted to hop on camera with her.
Anytime you can get here, you are welcome. The Tony Gunn is the man. We like you having you here. Enthusiasm. So
sorry to interrupt. Please continue. How exciting.
So, well, that's going to lead me to the Tony Gunn. The Tony Gunns of the world are helping us spread that gospel and helping us get to that point. And I'm so appreciative of everything you're doing here, and all the machine monitoring companies and all the machine tool companies to help us make this a better country. So I'm really appreciative of all those things. So
if I gave you a digital hug, could you feel it? I'm trying. Yeah. This is my hugging momentum right here. Hopefully you can feel that. Steve, I appreciate you as well, brother. I really do. Eric, you got a nice little closing statements for us, my friend?
I just want to say that you started this like, oh, your brothers, and obviously we can tell why Eric's there because you got the same last name. I guarantee you, if I wasn't cutting it, I wouldn't be here. I do love manufacturing. I think that right now there's going to be some self-promotion, but I think that we have the greatest group that we've ever had as a company. And we're on our way to do really good things and be around. I think that being around isn't reliant upon me. It's reliant upon the group. And that's you ask about, you want to do this in 50 years? And yes, I do. But I also understand that it's going to take a group of us to be able to do that. And this is manufacturing everywhere. I think you're going to maybe see a little bit less family shops. And maybe there's you can connect the dots of everyone that was in the family that was involved, but I think there's more group leadership and it's group buy-in. You can't rely on one Michael Jordan to be able to carry. And I steal that analogy from my dad because it's a good one. The Bulls weren't successful because of Michael Jordan. Yes, he was a huge contributor, but it took all of them. You needed Pippen, you needed Rodman, everyone. If you had 5 Michael Jordans on the team, they probably wouldn't have won it all because no one would pass the ball. So it's self-promotion for Paramount Machine that I think we're in a good spot, and we're going to keep doing good things and making good decisions and moving on and moving forward with the idea that this is going to be around. And we're not the only family dynamic here at the shop. There's multiple family groups where a parent and a child will work here together, and hopefully that continues.
Brilliantly said. Would you mind taking 30 seconds to give a website for everyone and just your focus as a machine shop of how you can support people out there who are looking for a reliable partner?
So paramount-machine.com, that is our website. You can find information about how to send quotes out or send RFQs in. I think I don't know if there's employment on there.
There is an employment link.
There's an employment link to be able to submit resumes. We do have an Instagram account, so we're going to try to work on some more content there, but
you got a LinkedIn account too. I always tag you in there.
I do have a LinkedIn account. That's new. I decided you were part of me deciding to do that if I'm going to participate in this, then maybe I should put my name out there. But so yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Steve's on LinkedIn. A bunch of people from the shop are on LinkedIn. You can connect with us through there too.
You've got a friend in me, buddy. I won't sing to you today, but you've got a friend. I guess I will sing a little bit. Anyway, thank you both for being here. Steve, I hope that wasn't too nerve-wracking for you. Eric, a pro as always. And for everyone who has joined us today, whether you're watching and listening, YouTube, MTDCNC, Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you are listening, time is the one thing we cannot manufacture more of as much as we'd like to, and we are working on it. But at least for now, we do not get more of that back. So if you've shared your time with us today, thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thanks. I appreciate it.